Something you may find to be a surprise is that not everything is the way it seems to be. More often than not, the things we know to be true are something quite the opposite.
When I was a baby girl and I was growing up, at the age of 9, my teeth were replaced by that of a 7-year-old German Shepherd.
You never knew when he was out of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone said that guy is gonna be huge. I like to just bring it back home with some nice hard screaming of my dialogue. It really awakens the voice inside of the voice.
But what Dr. Benny had discovered was a little surprising, to say the least.
The science is there. The technology is there. Global collateralization of unified equity leaders will lead to bona fide chemical breakdowns of current cellular infrastructure. We are on the cusp of cohesive unilateralization on a global scale.
And what if it isn't?
That's a risk we have to take as a species. I would say the human body will be able to withstand all kinds of torments, all kinds of pressures. Pressures like weight, like heat. You should come into the clinic about 20 times a day to get rid of throat lumps specifically. Are we still speaking? Okay, yes, throat lumps. You should go to the clinic a lot because there can be at least 20 throat lumps at a time in one visit.
I sat down with a small rabid animal and asked him for his thoughts on the issue. And not many people realize that horses are the worst gamblers in the world.
Five men walk into a bar and kiss each other on the mouth. Now tell me, what do you think?
That seems pretty straightforward.
Now you're beginning to understand the global economy. You take a survey. 8 people out of 12 believe that their money is safe in the banks. But the fact is, the Hamburglar visits each one of those banks at least once a month. And where's your money going? McNuggets. For the past 10 years, presidents with political inability to capitalize on capital gains have been bailing out financial institutions such as auto companies and banks, and where has it gotten us? Zero paper.
But just how far were they willing to go? I sat down with MIT Director of Human Services to find out. Do you smell that?
Let me put it to you this way. If the Earth is, for the sake of argument, a giant ball floating in space, then human beings are like little poppy seeds glued to the ball.
And what does that mean in the context of the void?
The consensus is that we're living inside of a big muffin. Now, imagine, if you will, a muffin the size of a planet. How many calories would that be? Who would take care of it? Who owns it? These are the questions we've been attempting to answer for decades now, and for the first time in history, we've gotten pretty close.
Who owns it?
I do. People say about asteroids is it's hot. But really, if you crack that sucker open, you look inside, there's a little guy in there. He's controlling it. Space is very dark when you look at it, but if you're up there, you'll see it's a disco show, baby. I've been studying stars for 20 years, and I've never seen one.
Jim Brenson had thought he'd committed the perfect crime, but little did he realize is that sometimes a cold case gets cold. A baby gorilla can weigh as much as maybe once you did.
He was always such a sweet boy. I said he could play with the animals, and he did. He loved the frogs.
Did you ever suspect that Jim was capable of this?
Well, after Jim's father died chasing a tumbleweed, I was told Jim could do whatever he wanted, and he did. I just can't believe he would do something like this.
But what Barbara didn't realize is that the amount of solar power coming from her refrigerator could turn any man mad.
The last time I heard from Jim was quite recently, 7 years ago, and he wrote me a note and left it on my counter, and he said, "Don't eat the last cookie."
$12 million Americans are walking around completely naked and unaware.
And does that affect you personally?
That is the catch. They're packaging subprime mortgages and selling them off like they're prime.
John Penny's was the underground founding father. He was the driving force behind America's first drive-through car wash. When we first discovered the Americas and began to colonize them, no one realized there was an untapped wealth of opportunity, except of course John Penny's.
You talk about John Edison or Benjamin Washington, but when it comes to John Penny's, no one has anything to say. He's the unsung hero of early American penal colonies.
And how long did this go on?
About as long as I can remember.
George Washington wasn't real. The word torpedo today comes from the sound John Penny's made when he dove into the Potomac River to blast through the hull of a British ship.
We've gone on quite the journey today, from the stars above to the stars inside of our hearts. One thing we can be sure of is that we'll never be the same again. In the vast emptiness of this apathetic universe, what is one more shriek of agony into the inky nothingness? I'll leave you with this.